The Illusion of Us, Chapter 4, Expanding Consciousness. Stop for a moment and close your eyes. Visualize seeing yourself from the third person, like a silent observer floating above. Now slowly zoom out, further and further, until you pass through the clouds and out of our atmosphere. Continue ascending until you leave Earth and are merely left with a tiny blue speck, quietly revolving through space. Feel for a moment that almost inconceivable wonder and complete humbleness of your very existence right now. This minuscule blue planet, surrounded by the vast darkness of space, is the only home we have ever known. Allow this enhanced perception to flow through the fabric of what defines your existence. By using this model of awareness as a grounding point for the expansion of consciousness, all distractions that seek to derail our enhancement simply vanish into thin air, exposing themselves for the illusions they really are. The idea that we are on a planet right now flying through space isn't something most people think about. It's almost as if we forget where we really are and collectively pretend to be on the set of an egotistical reality show. That false perception is what feeds the created reality which still firmly grips society. I often find myself standing at the crossroads of a busy intersection, observing people as they quickly rush past one another and ponder who they each are and where they are going. I think about what this illusion of our reality has done to each and every one of them. From the lonely elderly woman heading home to eat a microwave dinner by herself, to the corporate businessman locked away in an upscale office, wondering when he will get home to his family. All I see here is sadness. I see this tremendous sadness from the lack of connection to our external world and, most importantly, to ourselves. Humanity has been made to believe that our individual contributions and consequences aren't real and that every action is random and meaningless. This delusion to our existence is simply based on nothing, yet this perception has poisoned our minds and closed us off from any experience that doesn't bring instant pleasure. What kind of a life would each person decide to live if only they knew the truths of their existence? Would they really settle for these mundane and shallow activities that fill up their physical life here? As the clock for our own mortality ticks away, we must ask ourselves if this is the life we really wanted to live. By repositioning our mind to strongly consider the feelings of every human being and stripping away the segregation of race that is so ingrained into our psyche, the expansion of consciousness can occur quite rapidly. The great secret that has been kept from humanity is what accompanies our unique emotion. Human emotion allows connection to the higher self and is intrinsically important for the evolution of consciousness. If the individual does not connect to their emotional side, the ancient left brain dominates their perception of reality and fundamentally changes how they even identify with themselves. Without emotion, we become locked in a red frequency state and disconnected to consciousness. With all of the negative associations mocking emotion in our society, the most important trait that makes us human has almost been forgotten to us. By reconnecting to our true emotional side and allowing our heart to govern our actions, the path towards enlightenment welcomes us with open arms. It doesn't matter what has happened in the past, because the mistakes we have made do not control the future. The only thing that really matters is the moment you are in right now. Instead of using sight as the primary means for direction, try following the ancient guidance found within intuition itself. By following this inner voice of intuition, the road towards the expansion of consciousness and self-discovery unfolds within us like a divine river of progression. The most difficult obstacle in the expansion of consciousness and breaking free of this illusion of our mind is actually ourself. As a society, we have been programmed to distrust new information and push away anything that challenges the simple narrative that governs our lives. These blocks inside of us maintain the status of who we think we are and the comfortability in this reality. When new information comes along that challenges everything in a person's paradigm, the natural response is to push that negative feeling away and try to remain in a state of blissful ignorance. That perfectly normal reaction is the main blocking mechanism for new information being understood and absorbed. The human subconscious that has been trained to attack any new ideas that disrupt the designated reality chosen for society. Discovering the truths within all of this and expanding consciousness was never meant to be easy. Held back at almost every turn, the remarkable story of humanity and its place in the universe is really just beginning. What an indescribable feeling it is to know that we are not alone and that humans are part of something incredible. The secret gifts found within humanity are ultimately the reason for so much of our suppression. Once society is able to collectively shed the controlled manipulation of reality, we will finally step out from the shackles that limited our awareness to see a world filled with infinite possibilities and the fundamentally important experiences that lead to our own conscious expansion. The best analogy for describing humanity's control of consciousness and the state of fear that has stagnated our expansion for so long is through the allegory of the cave metaphor. This clever analogy by Plato perfectly illustrates the means by which our society has been kept locked in a cave of its own awareness. The allegory of the cave categorizes where each person would fall relative to their level of conscious awareness of information and truth. In this dark cave, there are captors and captives. The captives represent the majority of humanity who are chained to a fixed position which only allows them to stare at one spot on the cave wall. Behind them are the captors, who use fire to project shadows on the wall in front of the captives. The captives are unaware of their captors because they exist in a smaller box of awareness than them. The captors use these shadows as tools for fear to control the chained population who is convinced that the shadows are real. What most of the captives do not know is that they are actually not a prisoner from anything but themselves. The chains that bind them and fears that control their expansion are simply a clever illusion to distract them from the truth. The last group of people represents the freed prisoners who are no longer bounded by the cave or false shadows that keep them enchained. These free thinkers exist outside the cave, far from darkness, and are illuminated by the light of truth. Once a person becomes free of all these illusions, they must then decide if they are going to return to the cave to try and help the other prisoners, or simply exist in their own state of bliss above ground, in the warmth of the light. This important decision is the ultimate deciding factor for the outcome of humanity. As a collective community, we must search ourselves for the compassion that exists within, to care about the welfare of our fellow humans. This struggle is all of ours to bear, and only together will we decide if it's worth fighting for. In realizing our own misunderstood identity, we must first come to terms with understanding the importance of the chakra system in the body. The chakra system represents activation points for important DNA as we continuously evolve our consciousness. Isn't it incredible to learn that there are 7 colors to the visible light spectrum as well as 7 chakras in the human body? What is even more amazing is that these 7 chakra centers directly relate to the matching wavelengths of the visible light. Does that mean we are really light beings with amnesia? The most important thing to understand and ultimate key to our evolution lies in we are on the smallest level. The information being taught in school for describing the core functionality behind vibration and frequency within the human body is almost non-existent and cleverly omitted. The foundation for the expansion of consciousness is built on the understanding of these intrinsically important aspects of human mentality. All species on Earth are composed of atoms that are in various states of vibration and frequency. Even the planet we call home has its own unique vibratory rate and sound if recorded from space. Every action and reaction of matter is defined by the specific frequency it exists within. All information is received optimally within human beings in a higher state of vibration. This chapter is intended for assisting the expansion of your consciousness and freeing your mind through raising your vibration and frequency. If the majority of the population exists in a state of low vibration and frequency, then the direct result will be a society functioning within a collectively shared awareness. Each individual person affects the energy field and frequency of those around them, and that becomes compounded exponentially through population density in larger communities. Envision a group of friends sitting outside under the sun on a blue sky day, full of laughter and happiness together. Because the group is collectively choosing to remain in a positive state of frequency, a flow of energy is connected between them, lifting their moods to a higher state. Suddenly, one of the friends receives a phone call informing them that a loved one has been tragically killed, and they begin to cry. Instantly, the feeling changes between the group as something has darkened or altered that atmosphere. What has happened is that the frequency rate from the result of sadness, fear, or hate has brought the collective groups down to their level. This is, of course, not the fault of the person grieving, but rather the emotional acceptance of slower frequency through our intense need for human compassion for others. Along with the importance of understanding frequency and vibration, the next step in the process of expanding consciousness is achieved through unlocking the secret and highly guarded third eye for the brain, known as the pineal gland. When functioning correctly, this special gland connects our forgotten antenna, providing fundamental insight and expanding our perception and awareness of reality. The pineal gland has throughout history been called the third eye because it allows a way to see the truth and break free of the stubborn associations that enslave us. This gland can be activated through raising the body's functioning vibratory rate and consciously seeking expansion of the mind. Because of the acclimations of fluoride and other toxins in the body, this gland remains blocked and dormant inside of us. To be successful in expanding your consciousness, you must reconnect with this ancient center of knowledge. The way of activating the human pineal gland is found through meditation, optimal health, and the use of certain plant allies found on Earth. All of the tainted foods and water mentioned in the suppression chapter are ultimately designed to lower our vibration and block off the expansion provided by the pineal gland so that we ultimately exist in a red spectrum of ourselves. Years of accumulated neurotoxins in the body cause the pineal gland to become crystallized and dormant. One of the most important things a person can do to expand their consciousness is by eating healthy organic foods and drinking natural spring water. The reason sudden expansions or awakenings can occur in an individual in rapid time is directly related to the activation and cleansing of this intrinsically important gland. Ancient cultures revered this third eye and its deep purpose to us as a species. The importance of the pineal gland for conscious expansion has been worshipped and engraved into many of the most famous landmarks from our distant past. The pineal gland is most notably seen in ancient Egyptian culture and is shown frequently as the Eye of Ra or Eye of Horus. By discovering this truth within ourselves, we are able to connect with the very source of knowledge itself and rapidly transition to a new state of conscious awareness. After thousands of years of accumulated war, greed, and fear, much of humanity has become locked in a stagnant state of its own false illusion. Peppered throughout the masses are those who exist in a high vibration and challenge the very nature of everything. Those gifted individuals who have a high state of vibration are able to raise the vibration of others around them and actually alter their reality. Like beacons of light in stormy, dark waters, they constantly battle to hold their vibration up and remain positive. A good example can be seen with the transition of someone lonely and sad into falling in love. Since our emotions connect us with a higher vibration, the answer for finding true happiness lies within love and compassion. It does not have to be love for a person, but love as the means for every decision and action taken. By deciding to embrace love for others and most importantly yourself, the expansion of consciousness into a more peaceful state of growth can occur quickly for those who are completely free of fear and hate. By releasing all fear and hate inside, we become the state we were meant to exist in all along. There are a lot of ways to expand consciousness, and each individual has their own methods that work for them based on their body type and neural functions. For example, some individuals do not like the effects of psychedelics and prefer a completely natural approach, We each have our own unique methods that provide assistance, and only through self-discovery can those be found. Meditation is essential for those who want to truly expand their consciousness. Meditation provides a deep reflecting point for the soul through clearing the mind of distractions and helping to connect to your multidimensional side. When a person goes into a deep meditative state, they are able to seek balance as well as receive important insight for those who can listen. Meditation has been falsely viewed by the majority of society as a sort of myth or alternate science for the body. Meditation is essential for achieving balance and happiness and could alleviate the suffering for millions of people around the world. Even those individuals who do not have the intention of expanding their consciousness will find great peace and balance in this practice. What meditation does that is so intrinsically important is that it slows down and clears the mind of pollution to bring the body to a state of complete mind over matter. All of the thoughts controlling and determining every action we make are melted away in a state of serenity until all that remains is the moment you are in. If an individual practices this yogi lifestyle long enough, everything in their life will change. Once a person fully understands the state of being completely in the moment and seeking balance from within, all of the rest will simply fall into place naturally. The path of expanding consciousness through the use of meditation takes practice to master and isn't supposed to come easily. I recommend finding a solitary, quiet location with no distractions from the outside world. Find an appropriate style of music that allows a deep, quiet connection to the self. Start by sitting cross-legged on the floor and closing your eyes. Breathe in deeply, holding your breath for a few moments, and then slowly exhale. Repeat this over and over until you naturally fall into a rhythm of your own breathing. Feel the energy flowing through your body and clear your mind of all thought. Do not try and force anything or become frustrated with a lack of progress. Instead, just exist in a state of complete peace and quiet. Remind yourself that you are not defined by your physical body and that you exist as only your pure consciousness on another dimensional plane. Just when you're about to give up and stop trying is the moment you will truly feel the deep connection to your higher self and realize you are meditating. When in a higher meditative state, great wisdom is often given through visions and thoughts to those who are listening. This important state of mind is the lost connection we have forgotten to ourselves. So much of humanity constantly suffers from feeling alone in this existence, unaware that there is a place they can go to take away all of that pain and find peace and purpose within themselves. The art of meditation goes back for thousands of years and is one of the greatest secrets kept from us. Think of the seemingly lonely monk choosing to devote their life to the idea of protecting something deeper and intrinsically important to all of humanity. But what is so important that an individual gives up all material things for? The meditative state provides a critical connection back to all life in the universe and the important role for where human beings fit in. Through tearing down the false veil of reality provided to us, meditation exposes the true heart of our divine purpose. One of the most essential means for the expansion of consciousness is found through the lost connections back to Gaia itself. The incredible beauty found on planet Earth has all but been forgotten by most of society, driven by the illusions of material wealth and the manipulation of reality. By reconnecting with the heart of Gaia herself, an important piece of our expansion and identity can finally be found. The connections and quiet found within nature, free of all distractions, provides the greatest lessons we could possibly learn about ourselves. There is great wisdom to be gained through spending time with Mother Nature and listening to the subtle whispers from a gently flowing stream or the somber creak and sway of an ancient old-growth tree. These connections back to the earth provide the very means for our conscious evolution. The important connections back to Gaia and quiet itself has been replaced in society by the distracting screams from all of the electronic devices that we identify ourselves with. Even in my short lifetime, I have seen a complete disappearance of the importance of growing up and playing in the outdoors. Society has replaced the external world with the illusion of its technological accomplishments. Technology can be a powerful tool for expansion, but far more commonly, it becomes the substitute for vital exercise and fresh air, turning us into a society of confused, caged animals. We have forgotten our important connection to the natural world and the need for peace and quiet that it provides us. Slowly eroded from within us through years of conditioning and conformity, most people today just avoid nature and the quiet completely. With so much stacked against human conscious expansion from the many pollutants that contaminate our minds, we must look to nature in order to provide a safe haven back to reality. One of the greatest unsung heroes for the conscious expansion of humanity is found within the natural plant psychedelics found on Earth. This special group of plants and fungi alter human consciousness and free the bonds of linear thinking while raising vibration and frequency. So much of our conscious expansion can be linked back to their use that our very evolution as a species may not have happened without them. All throughout history, ancient cultures have revered these sacred allies for teaching and wisdom. The most crucial lesson that humanity can learn from the guidance given from these plants is the importance of reconnecting the left and right brains and finally finding balance within. For the individual considering any psychedelic, it must be done with respect and in the correct setting. These ancient plants and fungi are very powerful and can change the very fabric of reality itself. The reason the setting is so critical for their use is that the experience can dramatically change depending on the individual. Since these plant healers have been deliberately demonized for so many generations, a strong stigma still looms over their use in society. Before you ever decide to try one, do extensive and objective research to learn everything about their properties and how they interact with the human body. The degree of benefit found from these plants will vary greatly amongst individuals. For some people, they will find enormous healing and knowledge, while in others, anxiety and unpleasantness. Every human functions within their own unique level and must seek out that which provides the greatest assistance to their own advancement. Even these important healers themselves must be used with balance and respect in order to achieve success with them. The expansion of consciousness is the greatest achievement an individual can do for their personal growth as a developing species on this planet. The road to expanding consciousness is like being lost in a dark forest with no map to follow. Countless pathways lead to dead ends, forcing us to come back to where we started over and over again. The only way to find the correct path towards the light of truth is by following the breadcrumbs laid down by like-minded individuals and connecting to our deep spiritual side. In this physical plane of reality that we stumble through in an attempt to discover our deep purpose within life itself, our path towards expansion follows the great narrative being played out all around us for the very evolution of the universe itself. And that concludes this chapter. Peace and blessings to you all.